Hi, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Jamoy. This is my first ever video and it is very late. I'm very sorry about that. But in this video, I'm going to be giving you a deep dive into the application process to study in China. This video is going to be very long. Hopefully not too long. I'm just giving you all the information I think will help you to finish this application process. I will be sharing tips that I've learned while I applied. If you do enjoy the video, I'd appreciate it if you give it a like and subscribe for more content. I'll be doing mostly vlogs and so forth. But yeah, without further ado, let's get right into the video. The first thing we're going to look at is choosing the right universities to apply to for you. And I have my whiteboard here with all the topics that I'm going to be covering. So the first thing is the tiers of university. So at the top we have the C9 League. This is basically China's Ivy League. That's one. After that we have the double first class universities. I think that's about 100 and stuff universities, which their goal is working towards reaching an international level education. This tier of universities was created a bit earlier than these two, right? But when they were made, they wanted them to be working also towards an international acceptable level. All double first class universities are a part of these group of universities. Below that, we have everything else. I don't want you to be looking at anything in this tier, right? Because these universities are probably not known overseas. I want to get a tab on Google and search for 985 universities. Okay, maybe I'll leave a link to a list in the description. Find this, and you can also find a list of double first class universities so you can look between them. Yeah, have that. Keep that. The next thing you want you to do is look up any global ranking website. Like you have Shanghai ranking or RU ranking. You have the US News and World Reports. Look up those. I want you to look up the ranking, the global ranking for Chinese universities for your major. Now, yes, you can look just for the universities themselves, but keep in mind a university might be ranked first but not have the program you even want to do. This is not the end of be all, right? So a lot of the times the global ranking isn't just education, it's like research, how much publications they made, stuff like that. But it's a good base point to know how that university is doing for what you want to study. So with the ranking, you can now look and see, okay, these universities are ranked the best in China for my major. Now you can look deeper into those universities. Now you can search up for the university's website. And we're going to look at the tuition costs. Very important thing I forgot to mention about the tuition is that you have to check when you have to pay the tuition fee, because usually you pay when you register, right, which is usually August or September. However, some of the universities, when I got my acceptance letter, in the letter they asked me to pay half or the full tuition in about 2 or 3 weeks time, which I wasn't informed of before. So I wasn't able to, let's say, gather that money in time. Keep in mind you get the acceptance letter about April or May, probably later, but you need to know this so that you don't end up in a situation like I did. But to be fair, you could take out a loan and then pay it back around that September time. But just keep in mind to check. This is if you're self-sponsored. If you're not, then you have a scholarship, so you don't have to worry about anything. But just check it out to make sure that you aren't surprised when you get your acceptance letter. You want to know how much are you gonna pay. Don't look at anything else. Don't fall in love with the university before you see how much the university costs, because it might be out of budget. Now you look at the cost of the tuition, and then I also want you to look at boarding as well, like to live on dorm. Look at that, and then look at scholarships. I didn't write here, but look at scholarships, because maybe you can get a full scholarship that will cover your tuition and the boarding, all of that stuff. Write it down, guys. Make a word file or something. Have a little database so you can see everything for the universities. You know, location. This is very important. Now, to be fair, some things you can do without when it comes on to location, but if you know it'll be a deal breaker for you, check it out first. Weather. Well, let me tell you something. I could never study at Harbin. Harbin is cold, right? Harbin is where they have the ice city. A ice city that doesn't melt. You know how cold that has to be. How big a manage to be the Harbin? So please keep in mind the weather. Cause, guys, for one thing, I don't like about my university. It's very close to the city center of Shanghai. No, that's so nice for when you want to be your tourist self and explore. But when you have to pay rent, tell me something of a ball. Alright, vibe. The vibe of the not even just the university, but the location. My best tip for learning more about the vibe is talking to a student. But another tip, because it's very hard to find anything about Chinese universities, download Xiaohongshu. Trust me, because you can search up the university. You'll probably see pictures and you see like students show like maybe a vlog of their day in the life. And that's what I did. So if I couldn't find it on YouTube or Insta, I downloaded Xiaohongshu and I found a little information. Adventure. In terms of touristy stuff that the city offers, if you really want to see very cultural stuff, my best tip is to do extensive research into the university. Read their website. I know it's a lot. I know it's a lot of words and stuff, but read it. Yeah, read it. It's really gonna help you. So another thing you have to look at when you're deciding your university are the admission requirements. We're gonna look at all the documents that you're gonna need to apply to study in China. So the first thing is passport details. You need a digital copy of your passport details. By the way, a tip for these documents, I would say scan them as a PDF file. So whether you're doing it with an actual printer scanner in an office or something, or you can even use like cam scanner on your phone to scan it as a PDF. It looks much more professional that way than if you have it as a picture and submit it as such. It just doesn't look as good to the person who are reviewing your application. So keep that in mind. The next thing, you're gonna want passport photo, PDF version of file, and physical one is gonna be needed on your medical form. But we'll get back to that. Your transcript. It has to be in English or Chinese. If you send any other language, you have to translate it. It has to be one of these two languages. Your high school diploma. You're gonna need a certificate showing that you finished your high school education. That's also needed. The medical. No, the medical is actually the hardest thing to get. It takes the longest time because you need a bunch of tests. I have to wait for the results. While it is the longest thing to get, depending on when the university deadline ends for the university that you're applying to, you might want to have it later. Not too late, but a bit later, because the medical is valid for 6 months and you will need it when you're registering to start the year. Just for the first year, you'll need that medical. So if you did it maybe November, when you reach in China to register, it won't be valid, so you'll have to do the medical again in China. And I believe some people paid. I don't remember. I think some people paid, but I didn't, because mine was still valid since I did mine in April. So I was good for that. They only drew blood for me. So it isn't just any medical, by the way. It's called physical examination form for foreigners. The university will usually link it in their admission requirements section. They'll say for the medical, you have to fill out this form, and they'll have the link to it. You print that and then you go to whichever doctor and they'll help you run the test and whatever. They'll fill that out. Okay, proof of language proficiency. If you're applying for a Chinese program, you need HSK 4 or 5, depends on the university. If you're applying for English, you need IELTS or TOEFL. If you're a native speaker, you don't need that. You being a native speaker is proof enough. Okay. The next thing is your exam results. So for my fellow Caribbeans, your CSEC, Cape, maybe City and Guilds. Honestly, anything you have, just send them. If you did SAT, send that too. If you did, maybe you did A levels. In fact, send any certificates. I believe there's usually a section, maybe any additional stuff you want to send. Send them. Send anything you think will help with your admission. Next thing, we have personal statement. And we're going to come back to this because I'm going to show you what it entails. I'm going to tell you what it entails by using mine as an example. So, but these two right here, these are dependent on the university, and everything else is always required. So the university might ask for a non-criminal police record. Keep in mind you pay to get that. Not too much, but you still pay to get that. And recommendation letters from like a teacher. Now let's look back at that personal statement I mentioned earlier. For your personal statement, the 3 things you want to make sure that you do. 1, you introduce yourself, your strengths, your accomplishments, any skills you might have. You know, that can really help to make the university see, okay, this person would be a really good fit for us. 2, why do you want to apply to that university? Why do you want to apply to China? Why do you want to apply for that program? Right, that's all covered under this one. And then lastly, your future plans and goals. Even if you don't know exactly what you plan to do, just put something. It's not like they're going to hold you to what you put. But just have an idea, what is something I hope to achieve at the end of my degree? Like, where do I think I could go? Keep in mind the word limit or page limit for the university. I'm not a college advisor, okay? So I cannot say for sure that, oh, this is the best personal statement ever. I'm just showing you how I did mine. Okay, so let's go into the first part, which is the self-introduction. So I told them my name, where I was born, where I resided, and I told them where I got my education, what I did. And the main part is describing myself. So describing myself as ambitious, passionate about learning, disciplined, and diligent. I also went into some of my accomplishments that I had. And I mentioned the fact that I like to keep a positive attitude. Also the fact that I like to be very technical. So I really want to give them an insight that, you know, my personality really does lean towards an engineer. And so I tried to find things about my personality that kind of would say, oh, okay, this person could be a good engineer. So one thing I did was like I searched up the qualities of an engineer. And so I tried to see how I could make myself seem much better suited for that. So you can do that as well for whatever topic you have to do. But, you know, you are you. So the next part of my self-introduction, I told them about the clubs that I joined and how I had leadership roles. So, you know, you mentioned those stuff because the leadership qualities are good soft skills for someone to have. And so me putting that on my application, it's like, oh, this person could be a possible leader in the future, which of course universities are gonna love that. They eat that up. I told them how I represented my school in various competitions, but I highlighted the math quiz team second place win because math is most related to engineering. So I didn't include the ones for dance. I mentioned them but not highlight them like I did for the math one. And I talked about my hobbies and how they help to form who I am as a person, and the fact that it helped me to be more confident in myself. I learned the value of a team. Yeah, kind of cringe, but hey, you gotta do what you gotta do to make yourself seem better. So this is what I wrote for why I chose engineering. You can read it, but I'm not gonna really go into details about it. But I will say for the last section, I also added an example of how in China, like how they're working towards, like something they do in engineering that I find fascinating, that kind of makes me want to apply more. In China, I mentioned how I first got into it because of Chinese dramas, and I talk about how China is most developed. And then I mainly went into the university. So why did I choose Tongji University? I mentioned four main categories I have. So I mentioned I wanted a good reputation, well-structured curriculum, research opportunities, and a welcoming community. And Tongji ticks all those boxes for me. It was ranked first. I found out through my research that the university had a lot of connections with approximately 300 overseas universities and research centers. So this is why I mentioned the research earlier. It's not just for choosing your university, but it helps in writing your personal statement, because you really have to show these people that you want to go to their university. It's about the city that the university is in, Shanghai. What about it would attract me, so on and so forth. But I started glazing them like, oh, it's very evident that the faculty aims to foster an institution conducive to quality learning and education, right? I was saying how, due to my ambitious nature, drawing again to who I am as a person with my curious mind, confident I'll be able to make the most of what Tongji has to offer. And then I added a little bit about my goals. I want to be well versed in Mandarin, design a lot of engineering projects, and become a motivated and innovative engineer. And I mentioned a possible, like, what I expect. Things might change, but what I expect is that I hope to return to Jamaica and use what I've learned to improve the transport system and infrastructure. So on my TikTok, I asked you guys to think of any questions you might have, and I'll do my very best to answer them for you. So the first one I saw, so someone asked what I'm studying, what university, and how old am I. So I'm studying civil engineering at Tongji University, and I'm 20 years old. The second question, do you need to know Chinese before you go? No. You don't even need to know how to say like ni hao. You can just go. If you don't know it, they will teach you the language. So even me, even though I'm doing an English course, they still have Chinese classes in there because they want you to know the language. Then they want you to know like HSK 4 before you leave. So it's in a sense mandatory, but you're living in China, you're gonna really want to know the language. Okay, so the next question is, what route did I travel to reach China? I do have a US visa, so I traveled to the States and I did visit family before I came to China. So from US to Shanghai was a straight flight. But for those of you who don't have a US visa, it's gonna be like a longer flight, I believe. I don't know the exact route, but I think you go to Panama and then like you go to the right to reach China instead of going to the left like I did. My flight to China, okay, just from US to Shanghai, it was around $1,100 US. So, and remember that doesn't count from Jamaica to the US, so it can be a lot. Oh, someone also asked if I traveled by myself, and yeah, I did. It was very terrifying. The flight was long. The flight was 17 hours, and that was like the shortest, one of the shortest flights I saw. And I had 3 suitcases, so me with my petite self, or with my 3 suitcases in the airport. It was a struggle, but we made it, so I'm good for that. Okay, someone asked how much subjects do you need for CXC. There is no like specified number to say like, oh, you need 5 subjects. They for the major though, they will say, okay, for engineering we want you to have 70% for physics and math. So also someone asked about grade. At the very least you should have like a 70% for the subjects. Not all universities will say, oh, you should have a certain percent. They will say you should have that subject, and I'm assuming they mean a pass for that subject, which is around 70%. I don't want to say 60, like want to give ourselves the best chance to get in, so I'll say like 70%. It's easier for international students to get in than Chinese university because Chinese students, they're competing out of a pool of 1.8 billion people. I don't know how much are students, but that's a lot of people. There's not much international students applying compared to that amount. So the criteria is a bit lighter, I would say. So like The 70% I saw was for one of the C9 league universities. Not to downplay that university at all, but you have to know that not many international students are applying. Glad that you don't have a lot of competition, so you have a better chance of getting in. Another question I saw is if you can transfer credits. And honestly, for this question, I would say you should email the university you're interested in specifically, because like it will differ for each university. So for that, find the university you're interested in, find the email for admissions, and email them and ask them, okay, I'm from this university, I'm doing this course, I want to go apply to this course. Can my credits be transferred? The next question is, how is China in terms of safety? It is very safe. You can walk out and you can be on the road late in the night and like you aren't scared. Of course you should still be cautious, because you know it's not like China is 100% perfect. No, it just means it's low probability for anything to happen to you. I think like that's the best way for me to explain it. And the last question is, someone asked me if it was easy to make friends. Okay, with other international people, yes, but to be fair, I am a shy person. But even being shy, I was able to make friends, especially within my class, because it's just international students. Like if you live in like a dorm style place, you'll definitely be able to meet people. You know, even me that's shy as me did meet people. You know, you say hi a few times, you know, start talk. Yeah. For the Chinese people, of course it's harder because I don't know Chinese. And then they might not feel confident enough in their English to be like, oh, let me speak to this foreigner in English. Some of them might, because they really want to build their English, but some of them might not feel comfortable, which I understand, because even me, if I reach SK4 in Chinese, I feel like I'll still be a bit scared, like, oh, what if I say foolishness in Chinese to them, you know? So like put yourself in spaces where like you have to talk to them, because as I said, it kind of feels hard for both sides to just jumpstart a conversation with the language barrier. Put yourself in those positions where you have the ability to converse with Chinese people, and they were really nice people. So yeah, I think that's all the questions. If you have any more, just put it in the comment section. I will try to answer them as fast and as accurate as possible. Okay, so this is the end of the video. Thank you for watching. I really hope that you guys learned something and that you know, feel more confident in starting your application to study in China. I wish you guys all the best, and I hope that you all get accepted into your dream universities. Stay tuned for the next part of this video that will talk about what to do once you've gotten your acceptance letter. I'll see you guys. Bye.